Everybody get up.
Hey everybody, my name is Stu, aka Paint You Up 824, and this is going to be my talk about the Planet Eclipse Gtek and how it fits in the Planet Eclipse family. Home! I got on the three. And I'm hit. Hit! So the Planet Eclipse Gtek was the first e-gun that I purchased after getting back into paintball. I started playing in the late 90s and then moved on through the early 2000s and played tournament paintball with a Stow autococker. So the Gtek was the first electronic gun that I purchased because after doing all the research, in my opinion, is what spoke to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm not going to do a full in-depth, huge review on the Gtek. There are other channels out there that go on more depth into the Gtek than I do. I recommend the Madman. Excellent review he gave on the Gtek, as well as a comparison of the Gtek and the Shocker RSX, kind of as a side-by-side comparison of which mid-range marker would be best to buy. Ironically enough, I own both a Gtek and a Shocker RSX, so I didn't buy that because of his review. I just did that because those are the two guns that I felt spoke to me and that I felt were good value. Actually, before we open it, I just wanted to say that I apologize for the blinding light behind me. Quite honestly, this is the clearest spot of the house that I could do this in without you guys looking at a bunch of junk in the background. We have a single-story house. Little small, junk everywhere. This was the best backdrop I could actually think of. Again, learning, getting better. Let's look at the Gtek. So, like most Planet Eclipse guns, obviously, well, first off, packaging is incredible. Hard packaging, always the greatest that it comes in. And when you get it, you get your Planet Eclipse manual, which are always extremely well written, well designed, well photographed manuals. You get your barrel sock. You get your parts kit, you get your tube of Planet Eclipse lubricant, grease. You get your Allen key set, which, you know, again, if you have one Allen key set, you have them all. But again, I really like these. They have the ball, the detent or the ball detent kind of portions of the Allen key. So I actually like that. That's my favorite type of Allen key, if you do have a favorite type of Allen key. And you have your Gtek. Again, I like to rock the red and black color combo, so of course I get the red Gtek right here. It also comes with your shafts, I think shaft 4 or is it shaft 5 barrel system with the reverse threads for the barrel tip, and then your barrel backs that come in your different bore sizes. The one that it comes with is a 689, and then normal threading onto the actual gun itself. I thought that was an interesting, you know, I guess I'm gonna call it an upgrade because back in the day when you would shoot the autocockers, you would thread those barrels in, and the pneumatic systems would always kind of get in the way. And I would shoot actually a 10 to 12 inch barrel. So if you really kind of crank that thing on, it was really hard to remove the barrel from the gun. So you end up having to start spinning it out here. And when you're spinning out here, you're just taking off the tip and you weren't actually taking off the back portion. So the fact that they made the tip portion reverse threaded, I think is a really good idea. So you technically could, you know, remove the barrel by torquing on the very end of the barrel, and it comes out because the tip is actually reverse threaded. So I think that's an excellent design upgrade they made for, you know, paintball guns in general. Okay, this in the frame here. So here it is. You can tell that it does have a macro line. I don't find that to be a problem. Some people really like, you know, the hoseless guns or the AT pipe, the air transfer pipe that comes in right here. But for me, it doesn't bother me at all, coming from a line of guns that always had macro lines. So that is fine by me. So I actually moved the camera back just a little bit, so I'm not talking to you like this. So I can at least kind of keep it in the frame while talking to you and not having it kind of blocking me. But so along with the shaft barrel system, you get the feed neck, clamping feed neck, It's kind of a standard these days on guns. It's not a toolless feed neck. You do have to use an Allen key to get into the feed neck to tighten it. But once you get it set up perfectly to the right kind of rotation you need, it works out just fine. Comes with the Oops ASA. The Oops ASA, where you kind of spin and rotate to engage your tank. Which again, some people seem to have a problem with it. I've never had an issue with it. In fact, I tend to have more issues with the Pops ASA, which is considered to be a nicer ASA system for your gun. Just trying to push that thing in, I tend to have some problems sometimes getting that to engage with a really, high pressure tank. So, trigger on the Gtek. Some people say it leaves something to be desired. Again, me personally, I think it's fine. A typical micro switch trigger, it's available for you to adjust just like any trigger on a gun is. And in my opinion, if you're using this for tournaments, mainly, I think that the trigger is kind of obsolete in a sense, because a lot of the tournaments you are in ramping mode anyway, so you're really only using one finger anyway to engage the trigger. Toolless removal of your bolt system. Of course, the Gtek has the Gamma Core system, or the Gamma Drive, a relatively new-ish system from Planet Eclipse, kind of adding to their other system, which would be the IV Core, that comes in later in their Geo line as well as in their CS1s. That seems to be kind of the standard, the staple that they have these days. But the Gamma Core we'll get into in a little bit as well. So kind of in a nutshell, that's your Gtek. It retails brand new for around $550, and it comes with a standard board, but with the OLED upgrade that you can have with it as well. Again, for me, I don't think the OLED, especially for this gun, is really necessary. I think you could do just fine with the standard board on this gun. It's pretty user-friendly, and again, you usually leave your gun in the same mode all the time. So once you kind of get it in the mode and you get it situated, you really don't have to change it that much. So again, I just wanted to kind of go through the Gtek real quick because it's the gun I own, and this kind of review / talk about the Planet Eclipse line is kind of my interpretation of what I think is probably the best gun you can buy, or the best bang for your buck in the Planet Eclipse line, and that is, in my opinion, the Gtek. So I'm going to kind of start and just talk about the line that has come out so far, and I'm going to start at the Geo 3. Because going back any further, they're not really that available anymore, or they're just kind of obsolete. So when Planet Eclipse came out with the Geo 3, it was very revolutionary. The Geo 3 had also a macro line attached to it. It had a new engine for Planet Eclipse called the Drivetrain, I believe, and it was an incredible gun. Then they introduced the Geo 3.1, and the 3.1 still used the drive chain that the Geo 3 used, except it had, instead of the macro line, it had the AT pipe, or the air transfer pipe. And that was basically the difference between the 3 and the 3.1. I'm sure someone could correct me on that. There might have been a difference in the ASA as well, but not quite sure. The AT pipe was basically the main change between the Geo 3 and the 3.1. Well, the 3.5 came out, and someone let me know why they went from 3.1 to 3.5. I just don't quite understand that, why it wouldn't have just been 3.2. And when the 3.5 came out, it was the exact same as the 3.1, except they introduced their IV core. So a brand new drivetrain being the IV core, and that is now still the same high-end drivetrain that they put in their guns today. It's what's in the CS1, the CSR, and it's kind of the standard now for the Geo line, because when Planet Eclipse put out the IV core for sale by itself, people were snatching it up and putting it in their Geo 3s and Geo 3.1s. In fact, if I were to buy a Geo 3.1, I would not buy one without the IV core. If I were to buy a Geo 3, I wouldn't buy one without the IV core. So, in my opinion, was the upgrade from the 3.1 to the 3.5 with the addition of the new drivetrain of the IV core back when that was released? Absolutely. I think that was a great addition. I think it was well worth it. Personally, I probably would have bought it. So you had the Geo lines, which, in their heyday and still now kind of command a pretty large price. costing upwards of $1,000. And you had kind of on the lower end of the Planet Eclipse spectrum was the Etha, and the Etha didn't use the drivetrain. I can't even honestly recall the bolt system the Etha used. I think it's like a spring system, if I remember right. And you had your lower end on the Etha, on the side of the Etha, and then a way high end with the Geo line. So there really wasn't anything in the middle. So Planet Eclipse already had the Gtek, which was the poppet style gun. So that in creating the Gtek, which is now your spool valve gun, they kind of had now a market for the mid-range gun for people to buy in the spool valve, which would be the Gtek. So when they created the Gtek, they kind of, I think, were on the fence on, well, do we put the IV core in the Gtek, or we put kind of the Etha drivetrain in the Gtek? And they were kind of like, what can we do to make this worth, a mid-range gun value? So they created the Gamma Core. The Gamma Core is in the Gtek. This guy right here. So, when the Gamma Core was created, there's a lot of reviews on it. I'll kind of refer you to the Madman's review on the Gamma Core, where he gums it up and it still shoots. It's an incredible core, incredible efficiency. It seems like the Gamma Core now is kind of the new baby for Planet Eclipse. When creating the Gtek for a retail price, again, around $550, they also kind of made a higher end version of the Gtek, that being the Gtek 160R. So 160R, like the Geo 3.5, had the air transfer tube in it, and just was containing the Gamma Core that was within the 160R. So the Gtek 160R was all of the upgrades that the Gtek did not have on the outside. All aluminum frame, better milling, just better quality. But still has the same Gamma Core that is in the Gtek. So you could argue you have, in my opinion, a high-end drivetrain being the Gamma Core in the 1.6R and in the normal Gtek. It's just the 1.6R has a little bit of upgrades on the outside. So in my opinion, it is all about the drivetrain, because that's the heart of the gun, and that is where your shot quality comes from. So you could argue I have a mid-range gun with mid-range features on the outside with a pretty high-end drivetrain within it. The 160R, you have kind of a higher-end body with still a high-end drivetrain. Not quite as high as the IV core, but then again, if you want the IV core, the Geo line, or now the CS1s, and CSRs, you're going to be paying upwards of $1,300 to $1,700 for those guns. So I think Planet Eclipse is trying to target that market for people that didn't quite want to spend over $1,000, but still wanted a really good, high quality gun such as the Gtek. And then honestly, I bought the Gtek, and a few weeks later, the 160R came out, and I was still happy with my Gtek, because seeing that they're keeping the same drive system in the 160R, I was like, that's all that matters. Shot quality is the same, in my opinion. So the 160R kind of being almost like a Geo 3.5, but with the Gamma train, or the Gamma Core. So I was still happy with my purchase. So there's been some talk on the forums about the CS2. So you have the CS1, it only makes sense that the CS2 will be coming out at some point. And I read an interesting thread on PB Nation about how people believe that the Gamma Core within the Gtek series is going to replace the IV core in the new CS2, or the new upgrade that Planet Eclipse is going to go to. There's been some debate about that. Is that going to replace it? Is it not going to replace it? In my opinion, I don't think the Gamma Core is going to replace the IV core. I think that Planet Eclipse has invested too much in the IV core for that to happen, and still want to look at the Gamma Core as being kind of their mid-range setup, or the mid-range drivetrain. And my thoughts along that I kind of go along that line, is the introduction of the Etha 2 that Planet Eclipse just came out with. So on their lower end guns, at the Etha, they created the Etha 2. Upgrading the Etha 1 and the Etha 2 has the Gamma Core as well. So you're putting the Gamma Core in your Gtek 160R, and now your Etha 2. And that opens up a huge range of possibilities, given that if you are in the market for a mid-range gun, you could think to yourself, well, I have the Gtek here. Maybe I got to spend a little extra money, I get a 160R. Or if I really am on a budget, you could look at the Ether 2. Now, I personally have not shot the Ether 2, but just the sheer fact that they have the gamma core in the Ether 2, I'm going to tell you, it's definitely a sweet shooter. Again, you know, there's probably differences in the outside to make it a $400 gun instead of a $500, $50 gun. But the fact that they have the same drivetrain in the Ether 2 just leads me to believe that, you know, they are kind of keeping the gamma core a little bit on the lower end side of their guns, while the IV core is still going to be reserved for their high-end guns. You know, so a lot of people ask me, you know, at the field and at, you know, I guess on the channel as well, you know, what would you recommend, this type of gun or that type of gun? And my question to them is always, what's your budget? Because the budget's everything, obviously. What are you willing to spend on the gun you wish to purchase? And if you are in the market for a mid-range gun, honestly, I'd have to have a tough time telling you, depending on, again, what your budget is, whether to choose the Gtek or the Ether 2, even though I've not shot the Ether 2, just because it has the same drivetrain. So I would recommend, it's all about the budget. It's all about what your risk tolerance is, what you're willing to maybe spend on a used gun. Maybe you can afford a used Geo or a used Geo 3.5 or a used Geo 3.1. But then again, you're buying used, and there's always a risk associated with that. So I think that the gamma core introduction is excellent for the mid-range guns. And quite honestly, I don't see myself buying a Gtek 160R because I don't think, in my opinion, that they're kind of worth, you know, maybe that $800 range. Now, I think that they are worth more than what like a Shocker RSX would be worth in that kind of high to mid-range type of gun. But for me, the Gtek at 550, in comparison to even the Ether 2 at 400, the build of the Gtek in comparison to the build of maybe the Ether 2, I think the Gtek is just a better value for maybe an extra $100 to $150, depending on where you can find it and pick it up. I personally wouldn't spend the extra money on the 160R. So that's why, in my opinion, when it comes to mid-range guns for Planet Eclipse, I think that the Gtek standard here is the best bang for your buck. So, you know, shot-wise with the Gtek, it's extremely smooth. I've had no issues with breaking paint. As you can tell from some of my videos, I've had some issues with my Shocker breaking paint. And when that happens, I immediately switch over to the Gtek. Just no issues, really shoots smooth, really shoots well for a mid-range gun without the aluminum body. Kick-wise, there's very little. The sound signature is incredible, being a spool valve, but I have just been extremely happy and impressed with this little $550 gun. I'm a huge fan of the gamma core that they created for this gun, which would lead me to actually lead people who are maybe on a budget to actually purchasing the Ether 2 for the sole fact that it contains the same drivetrain. Don't get me wrong, I like the IV core. I think it's an excellent system, but that's definitely for your tournament style guns and people who have some more money to spend on those types of guns. So here I just want to kind of show you just a little comparison of the two drivetrains that Planet Eclipse is using exclusively right now. We have again the gamma core that you see here that is in your Gtek 160R and your Ether 2. And here is the IV core, which is in, again, your available for sale by itself to go in all your Geos and comes standard in your CS1 and your CSR. So I know you might be thinking, Stu, I thought you only had a Gtek and a Shocker RSX. That's what you said in the beginning. That's what you've said before. And oh my gosh, that's what we've seen in your videos, your playing videos thus far. So I got the gamma core, I got the IV core. Why do I have an IV core? Why do I got it? Well, I think I mentioned in the video, I would kind of say, why would people spend that kind of money when you have a great mid-range? Well, you know, I'm one of those people. And yeah, I'm one of those people. Making this a quick shot because I will do a full in-depth review of this baby when I play with it more and as it has more shots through it and is broken in a little bit more. But just know that content's coming on this guy, and you'll see some action footage with this as well from today's play. Stay tuned for that. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of shot-for-shot comparison between the Gtek and the CSR. Enjoy. So for those of you that actually made it to this section of the video, congratulations, because I'll be putting this section at the end of the video. And like I've said before, I'm a huge fan of paintball. I'm a fan of paintball content. I'm a fan of paintball people and a fan of people just in general. So if you've made it to this section, congratulations. And hopefully you didn't fast forward to the end, which I don't see why you would with my 16 subscribers, hopefully more. But you know, when watching channels myself, I always love giveaways. I think it's a huge, you know, fun deal. And I think it's great to give back to the community and give back to just, you know, people that support you, because I love it when I get supported, and I love, you know, talking to people and just feeling kind of that love in the community. So I thought to myself, I was like, what is one of the coolest gadgets I could think of that I could buy for the channel? And, you know, I could easily throw in, you know, the die multi-tool set, or some other things, hopefully something not, you know, kind of crummy, like, oh yeah, here's an Allen key set. But for me, it came to mind as this Exalt microfiber pod swab, and it's red, my signature red, and you can see Exalt, brand new. So I actually bought one for myself, but I decided to buy two. And I am not sponsored, I am not a syndicate or anything like that. I paid for this in my own money, and I'd like to give it away to one of you who is watching this right now. So the way you can win this is, if you had made it to the whole through the whole video, to win, you have to A, be a subscriber, and B, like the video, and C, comment down below in the comment section what setup you are currently running right now in your paintball life. What is the gun you use, the hopper you use, the pod pack, and the tank that you use. So basically your paintball setup that you are currently using, whatever it might be the first to comment that stipulation, and you, my friends, will win this pod swab, brought to you by Paint You Up 824, not anyone else. So yeah, go ahead. So congratulations to whoever gets this. Go ahead and make that comment. I'll respond, and then we'll kind of exchange emails, and I'll get you your pod swab. In my opinion, one of kind of the cool gadgets that many gear bags don't quite have. Add it to yours. So once again, guys, have a great day, and congratulations to the winner. So I want to say to everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you guys, you know, enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the demonstrations. I hope you enjoyed the content. Hit me up with some questions if you'd like to maybe comment on the video, or if you have any questions just in general for me. Congratulations to anyone who might comment to win the pod swab, and I really appreciate the watch. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. That really helps me out. It's good to kind of interact with people. I really enjoy that. I enjoy making these. I enjoy the content. I enjoy just talking, you know, to you guys like you're just my buddies, you know, having a beer, because this kind of stuff I love to talk about, and I could talk about all day. So once again, have a good day.